With more than 100 years of experience between the four of them, covering Minnesota high school athletics, the Minnesota Sun newspaper's sports editors bring you Sun on Sports.
And we're back with Sun on Sports. Just to reintroduce everybody, I'm Sun Current sports editor Mike Shaughnessy, joined by colleagues John Sherman, Kleven and Nick Clark. Greg Huff is the executive producer today. Guys, high school football.
Can't wait
already.
I'm told it's a big deal. Yeah, opening games are the 3rd and 4th of September, I believe. One of the bigger games on the schedule for the opening week is a non-conference game between Wayzata and Eastview. The Wayzata being the defending state champion in Class 5A. Eastview typically a top 10 team in that class. Nick, you were at Wayzata's practice yesterday. They apparently are still loaded.
They look ready. They look ready now. Brad Anderson wouldn't admit to that, but they're going to be all right. Their concerns are all centered on what they're going to do offensively this year. All 12 starters graduated, or all 11 starters graduated. They have one. Last year, if you remember, they had kind of like a three-headed running back attack. They had 3 guys pretty much split carries. Senior Garrett Engelhart was considered the starter, but Chris Creighton was got the second most carries out of that trio. He returns this year. I guess the major concerns are on offensive line, but it might not matter much early. It might just take 7 or 14 points, touchdown or 2 to win for Wayzata. They are stacked defensively. This is a team, the first unit last year gave up a total of 5 touchdowns, and they returned 6 starters. 8 kids who saw quality time along the way. All of their top tacklers. They have 3 guys that are currently either have verbaled or are being sought after hard by Division I schools. 2 other that are also potentially Division I football players. Yeah, the defending champs are good. Eastview's gonna have to come in there, and Wayzata always plays well at home. For obvious reasons. Eastview's gonna have his hands full, but who knows? If Eastview can come in and get a couple touchdowns early, might make things interesting. Just because as Wayzata works into this, they got a new quarterback, Dan Wexler. Like I said, the whole new offensive line is new. Their one receiver who comes back with any catches is AJ Troop. He had 1 catch last year for 98-yard touchdown against St. Cloud Tech in the state quarterfinals. Brad Anderson joked yesterday that his yards per catch is probably going to drop significantly early on this year. But like I said, if Eastview can come in early, strike a couple times, they might have a chance.
Yeah. It's a huge challenge for Eastview, but I'm not necessarily sure they're a pushover for Wayzata. They have a few starters coming back, pretty well sprinkled throughout the offense and defense. Their quarterback Jack McDevitt is back. They have a receiver, junior Frankie Veldman, 6'4". He's a multiple-time medal winner in jumping events at the state high school track meet. I would imagine that they might throw a little more than Eastview teams typically have. They have a very good running back returning, Rex Sanders. Ben Bauer, a linebacker, was I believe their leading tackler last year. So they've got some experience sprinkled through both sides of the ball. So it's not just going to be a walkthrough for Wayzata the first week, but it is. Everything I've heard is you verified Wayzata is loaded again.
Yeah, last year they had the best defense in the state of Minnesota, and that doesn't look to be changing. The one question mark, I guess, defensively, at least the first couple weeks, will be how Toby Akiuemi, I always pronounce his last name wrong, it's Akiuemi, responds. He tore out an ACL in his knee during the basketball season. He was their leading sack getter last year. He's one of the kids that's being recruited by the sounds of it. He's going to have his pick of schools between some pretty big name programs. And he's about 20 pounds heavier right now than he played at last year. Defensive coordinator Matt Lombardi told me yesterday they're kind of having the biggest loser contest to see who can get back down to where they were the fastest. But nonetheless, if Toby can get some explosiveness off that knee and harass quarterbacks like he did last year, it might not matter. They're just so tough to even move the ball on, let alone score touchdowns.
So John, are you going to North Dakota next week? Two of your teams are playing up there.
There's a big doubleheader up at the Fargo Dome. Edina going against Fargo South, and Minnetonka following against Fargo North. And I am thinking about going up there. I think it would be a really good night of football, and rain won't be a factor, certainly. We may have a little insight on a new conference here. Maybe if these Fargo schools can compete with the Classic Lake, we might have to figure out a way to fly our teams up there and play Fargo South, Fargo North, and another school up there, West Fargo. That might be a pretty good match for these Classic Lake schools in Eden Prairie.
Well, you got to imagine Edina and Minnetonka probably have a private jet somewhere.
Well, a jet, I'm not sure how private it would be, but it's going to be some good football. Edina lost its two best players, Zach Budish, the linebacker, who's going to the University of Minnesota to play hockey. Quarterback Anders Lee, who is going to Notre Dame to play hockey with a stop-off at juniors this year. So they lost a couple great athletes, but they have a few other athletes coming along who should be pretty good. Stephen Asp is a top receiver for Edina. He's back. Their tough guy in the middle on defense is Rutger Heffelfinger, and he's going to be a strong tackler. And Minnetonka going against Fargo North. I think Minnetonka has some great talent this year, especially on defense. They've got a defensive lineman named Bo Allen, who's basically everybody's All-American. They've got Zach Siemens at safety. They've got Jimmy Gildia at linebacker. Those are three thoroughbred defenders. And they also bring back their quarterback, Tommy Aarons, from last year. So Minnetonka, we'll see how they go. They play Wayzata twice. That's I don't know if that's good scheduling or bad scheduling, but they're certainly not afraid to take on the best teams in the state, and they've got a good core of players back.
Yeah, that first game against Wayzata is officially a non-conference game. They play late in the year for the game that will count conference standings, and it will also be for the infamous Bay Bell that has been resting comfortably in Wayzata for the last 5 or 6 years now, since Minnetonka's last one was the year they beat them in the Prep Bowl.
Well, in one of those games, at least, Minnetonka, I'm sure, is going to be on its A game, and maybe that bell will be sailing back across to Minnetonka.
Greg, is Eden Prairie supposed to be any good this year?
Bring on Wayzata. We haven't looked to see if they'll end up beating the Prep Bowl finals, but this will be the best Eden Prairie football team they've had. And what have they had? 5, 6
the best.
This will be the best. The coaching staff told me a couple of years ago that this group of seniors was the best that they've ever had. As 9th graders, all the way up through, they never had games closer than like 50 to 7.
Didn't they win a 6th grade game 96-0?
It was bad, and I asked a couple of players, and they said, yeah, the first stringers never got to play more than a couple of series. So this group is talented. They're all back from last year. I mean, they didn't have a bad season last year. Everyone thinks, what was it, one loss? That was to Blaine in the state quarterfinals. And Blaine goes on to the championship game, but they lost.
Stay tuned for more Sun on Sports, your insider's guide to Minnesota high school athletics. For the scores and more, tune in daily to mnsun.com/sports. And tune in every Saturday morning to Sun on Sports on AM 950, the voice of Minnesota.